So this retreat that we have been given the grace by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to attend has once again been a fantastic few days together with our sisters and brothers, our fellow travelers on the path, to try to remind ourselves and to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala together and individually. It was something I said to one of the brothers. I can't even remember who it was now, and it doesn't matter either. But it's sort of sometimes in a conversation or when you're talking to someone, some words come out of your mouth and you sort of realize that you had never really thought of them until they came there. At least it happens to me quite a lot. So in this way, there were two words that came to mind, and I thought there may be a nice way to wrap this retreat up as well. We've been talking about, or the topic of the retreat has been trials and tribulations. When I set the title, as I said earlier, it was really in view to the situation we have found ourselves in the world, with the pandemic, with the war in Ukraine, with other difficulties that we are all the time, of course, experiencing in our lives. All these challenges, all these trials and tribulations. Last time I was in South Africa in the last conference in the Rasuli Center, and I'm saying the last, maybe not even only the latest, but possibly the last. We don't know. It may happen again, but most people think it will not. Not there, maybe other places, or definitely, inshallah, other places. Maybe possibly there, but the latest anyway. Conference I was at, from two different sources, really completely unabated, I was sort of informed of hard times to come, that you will be challenged. You will get challenges in your personal life, and also that the whole world, will meet a challenge that you will never really could even imagine. And this was, well, how it came about or why, but how these people received that information, or even if they even knew themselves what they were saying, Allah knows best. But it was definitely when the pandemic came, I realized, and other events, I realized that that's what they meant. Even if they didn't mean it themselves, maybe at the time, I just sort of said, okay, I can see now what they meant, or what it meant, rather, I should say, when they said these things, what this was about. Or that was in my life, at least my understanding, my sort of recollection, or just the words of Hudayfa, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, spring to mind when he said that there will be things that the Prophet told me or told us about the calamities to come that even I have forgotten. And then when I see them, I recognize them and realize, oh yeah, that's just like when you see a face of somebody you know, and you hadn't really thought of that person for a long time, and you see the person, you recognize him immediately. So in the same way, when these things happen, you think, oh yeah, that's what they were talking about. So that really was made me set the title, but I always had in mind the greater picture of this whole life in this world, this whole sojourn, this journey through space and time that we are being exposed to, that our ruh is being sent on and given the body as a vehicle for this journey through space and time, through our life in this world. It's all about trials and tribulations, really. That's the whole point of it. That's the whole purpose of it. But then there were two things that sort of came to me right at the end now. And that is two words in Arabic from the same root. And this is maybe what we need. I was thinking, this is what it is about. This is what we need. Someone said, how can we, that's what the person asked me, how can we keep this alive, in our daily life now? What's going to happen now? We disperse, we go home from here. And how can we keep this up? How can we not forget about this? And once more, yet again get bogged down by our personal issues and, failing to see the larger picture and being so overcome and overwhelmed by the trials and tribulations we are experiencing that we can't sort of rise above it and see it for what it is. And these two words were dhikr and dhikra, or tazkir if you want. So dhikr means remembrance. I said in Swedish that åminnelse och påminnelse. Dhikr is åminnelse, it's remembrance. And dhikra is påminnelse, it's reminder. So remembrance and reminder, they are two words from the same root. That we have to remain in dhikr as constant as we can, as constant dhikr as we can. We can do it often and regularly or irregularly, when we meet together and we do dhikr together, or when we have different times during the day or the week that we perform some litanies or some wird or some prescription or other of spiritual exercises or dhikr, any kind of remembrance of God. But really everything is, whenever you think of God, you're in remembrance, you're in dhikr. If you always, or at least continuously, remind yourself or become aware or make yourself aware or try to stay aware of the ever-presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are in dhikr. Whether this dhikr is by listening to the birds or looking at the beautiful surroundings or going into yourself or reading the Quran or repeating certain formulae, certain words of dhikr, it's really material. It is that you are remembering Allah, that you don't forget Allah, which is the important thing. Because the opposite is nisyan and ghafla, to be in unattentiveness and to be in forgetfulness. And this, we have a tendency for that. This is how we were created. Al-insanu murakkabun min al-khata'i wa nisyan. The human being is put together from mistakes and forgetting and forgetfulness. This is our reality. This is our humanity. We are conditioned to make mistakes and we are conditioned to forget. And it's a blessing. If we would remember everything that everyone has ever said to us, it would be really awkward. I know some people who have an extremely good memory and they remember every event from their childhood. I don't envy them. It is a blessing also that we can forget so many things. We can forget, hard feelings, or we can forget, being mistreated, or someone said something that we didn't like, or we had stupid thoughts. It's a blessing from Allah that we can forget. And we do mistakes. This is who we are. This is what we are, really. We are human beings. But the remedy for this nisyan, really, it is remembrance. Because if we completely forget Allah, then we will be made to forget ourselves. Allah says in the Holy Quran, نَسُوا اللَّهَ فَأَنْسَاهُمْ أَنفُسَهُم. I mean, what a beautiful, it's unimitable. That the whole Quran is unimitable. That's why it is the mu'jiza, isn't it? There's a challenge, a standing challenge in the Quran. If you try to imitate this, you can't. It's inimitable. So they forgot Allah. Nasullah, they forgot Allah. فَأَنْسَاهُمْ. So He made them forget أنفسهم, themselves. If you forget Allah, and then you will also forget, you will lose sight of what is good for yourself, what is bad for yourself. You will not be able to find a way through this maze that this life of space and time it really is. So we need the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we also need to remind one another. وَذَكِّرْ فَإِنَّ ذِكْرَ تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Allah says in the Holy Quran, and remind, because reminder is beneficial for the believers, the people of faith even, the people of Iman. So remembrance and reminder. To remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to do dhikr, to be in dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to keep reminding both ourselves and one another. And now it made me remember this message from Shaykh Fadhlalla in the form of tafsir of Surah Al-Asr. Because وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا, and continuously remind one another or exhort one another, give wasiyah to one another, advise one another, or remind one another of the truth, and remind one another to be patient, to have fortitude. And this made me remember there is still one message as well. So I thought maybe we should end on that.
Bismillah, Bismillah, Bismillah. When life became evident a few billions of years ago, on earth there may have been also already different slight flavors, different, many other places, multiverses, I don't know. But what we know is that this life began to move in higher levels of consciousness due to the rise of intelligence over billions of years, and with it, the creatures that harbored it, the insects and the bacteria and the animals, and the also became more and more, if you like, in varieties. And then the human beings who maybe 50,000 years ago there was a fear of extinction, because they may not have been more than 1 million or so. Now not the fear, is this real danger of extinction because of the too many. Like something in life reverts to its opposite. So within the last 50,000 years, there were individuals and beings whose consciousness, because of the circumstances, the place they were in, there was no desperate need to run for survival, easy life, reasonable shelter and water. So they began to switch to another zone of consciousness and realize that our human zone is only one out of many others, emanating from what you may call a supreme consciousness. And that is the purpose of this short journey on earth. And all authentic religions and paths indicate that there is a purpose in life. There is a direction in life. And that is to acknowledge your conditioned consciousness, your limited consciousness, but switch into the higher zone, which almost transcends anything to do with this lower zone of consciousness. The ayah of the Quran sums it up and says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. This is addressing the Prophet or the prophetic being or anybody who is serious to save themselves from themselves. Inna arsalnaka shahidan wa mubashiran. First, to witness. Witnessing implies total clarity, neutrality, no judgment, no ideas before, no hope, nothing. Just see it for what it is. If you see the moment for what it is, you realize its nature is eternal. Moment after moment, it's timeless. So, witness. Once you look at the shadow, then it changes and moves. Then you will have a value situation, you have a judgment and so on, which is unavoidable. Inna arsalnaka shahidan, witness the shadows and the lights, and then maybe you're at the moment of timelessness and boundlessness. Wa mubashiran, give the good news. That is the good news, that life has emerged from that zone. This is the good news. We are all driven to be hopeful, to be cheerful. You can only be hopeful if you know that the end of it is endless. Once you die and wake up into the light which was in you, it is not bound to any space or time. That is the ultimate, if you like, joy. Mubashiran, bashar. Also, for the same word, it means the skin, because it's from the outer and the inner. The good news is everywhere, but we don't read it so easily. وَنَذِيرًا, and also give warning. If you are not driven by this program, by this path, you will be depressed and miserable and suffer like most people. وَنَذِيرًا وَدَاعِيًا إِلَى اللَّهِ بِإِذْنِهِ. And if you are able to sing this song and remind others, call others, do it without expectations. Once you have expectations, then you are in business. You're calculating. Do it for its own sake. وَدَاعِيًا, da'wah, invite. By permission. Have you taken permission from the author? With all the time, I like, and my opinion. Who are you? Has the author authorized you? If he has, then he's giving you a bit of a role to play, and that will finish also. So be careful. Don't ascribe anything to yourself. There is no self. The self is a mere shadow of the ruh. And the ruh is entirely led and guided and inseparable from the author. وَسِرَاجًا مُنِيرًا. If nobody is there, if nothing you're doing, you're illumined. So what is that? You're accessing timelessness. You're accessing your origin, eternity, and your destiny, eternity. So that's it. If you live it, you have then moved from defined life, bracketed between birth and death, to life itself. Life is eternal. That is the story that gives you a hope that is boundless, eternal, for every living entity. Bismillah.
اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. Oh Allah, we ask you, to give us all the ability to carry with us all the wonderful experiences and all the openings that we have had during this retreat, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, we ask you to accept and reward the efforts of all those who have worked to make this possible, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, we express our gratitude to them, Ya Allah, and our gratitude to you for enabling us all to gather here together, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, please, Ya Allah, let us live our lives in this world in such a way that will journey towards the next will be as enjoyable as the goal itself, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, give us strength and fortitude and gratitude, Ya Allah, to bear all the trials and tribulations that come our way that are a necessary part of the journey, of the sojourn, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, let us live this life as enlightened beings, Ya Allah, basking in the light of your oneness, Ya Allah, and Ya Allah, let that light shine through us even to be visible to others, Ya Allah, and be a guiding light for ourselves and a guiding light for others, Ya Allah. Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum, Ya Dhal Jalal wal Ikram, Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, O Allah, O the most merciful, O you who grants everyone everything, Ya Allah, grant us all that we need for ourselves, for our beloved, for our nearest and dearest, for the whole of the creation, for the whole of this world, for this life and the next, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, those people who are in difficulties and in hardship, Ya Allah, give them the fortitude and the gratitude and the ability to rise above that which they are in, Ya Allah, and see the greater picture, Ya Allah. Relieve them of the hardship, Ya Allah, and make everything easy for them, Ya Allah. All those among us and those amongst those we know and those we do not know who are ill, Ya Allah, give them, Ya Allah, health, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, we know that illness is also a blessing from you and a gift from you, and health is also, but the health is easier for us to bear than the illness, Ya Allah. So replace our illnesses with health, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, and make life easy for us, Ya Allah. All those among those we know, those who are nearest and dearest, and everybody from amongst this community, Allah, who have left this life of this worldly abode, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, you are the caretaker of their souls, Ya Allah. You are the one who, Ya Allah, is receiving them in your, Ya Allah, in your way, and in, Ya Allah, in your, Ya Allah, hospitality, Allah. Ya Allah, show them your hospitality, Allah, and make the rest of the journey for them easy, Ya Allah. Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum Ya Dhal Jalali wal Ikram. Oh Allah, have mercy on this world, have mercy on all the people in this world, Ya Allah, and end all strife and all dissent and all conflict and all wars, Ya Allah, whether they are civil, so-called civil wars, or they are wars between different nations, Ya Allah. And Ya Allah, put an end to oppression, Ya Allah. And Ya Allah, let justice rule, Ya Allah, and let justice be the guiding light of this world, Ya Allah. Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum Ya Dhal Jalali wal Ikram. Let us live our lives in this world with remembrance, Ya Allah, and with reminder, Ya Allah. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين آمين آمين.